Hello everyone, welcome back to the another session in Principles of Programming Languages. So we were continuing to learn 4th unit. The next topic is about object-oriented programming features. So basically we'll say object-oriented programming language as Java, but it is not true that the origin of object-oriented programming features were started from Java. No. There is a language which is before Java which carried out the features of object-oriented programming. And when I say it is features of object-oriented programming, so we just recollect the features of Java basically. But there are three key features what separates the languages into object-oriented. The three key features are what? Abstraction, inheritance and dynamic binding. So basically these are what three key features we say. Three key features we say to list a language into object-oriented programming language. If a language is supporting data abstraction, inheritance, dynamic binding, then we will say this language is said to be object-oriented programming list. So in this list, there are few languages which satisfies these three parameters. Those languages are what? Smalltalk and Java, C++, C#, Ada. These are what? The object-oriented programming languages. So I wrote here Smalltalk as the first language. It doesn't mean that only the Smalltalk is the language which is the first to have object-oriented. It is not, I have to say, because the roots of object-oriented programming language we'll find in Simula 67. So that is the first programming language where we'll find the roots of object-oriented features. So I have to say here, the programming language which is the first object-oriented is Simula 67, but it was not fully developed version. So that's the reason we were not heard before of times that Simula 67 is object-oriented language. Many of times we were heard about Smalltalk as the first language which have object-oriented features into it. And a language that is object-oriented must to provide support for three key language features, which is ADTs, inheritance and dynamic binding. Example languages are Smalltalk, C++, Java, C#, Ada 95. So this video is going to cover how each language will provide the features of object-oriented. So that was the talk of this video. Now let's understand how languages will support object-oriented programming features. Let's begin. Before begin, we have to identify the problems and the solutions what we were faced in data abstraction. Because when I listed the three parameters, we were identified abstraction is the first parameter. So we were already finished our talk about abstraction, how stack ADTs are implemented from Smalltalk to Objective-C, C, C++, every language we were covered in the previous videos. And that's the very reason we were detailed, we do have the detailed explanation, elaboration from each language. So this video will help you out to understand other than abstraction, the rest two factors will concentrate. The rest two factors are what? Inheritance and dynamic binding. So let's understand the problems with ADT, then we'll move to see about inheritance and dynamic binding. So basically we do have a problems with ADTs. The two problems are what? The problem with the reuse of abstract data type is that in nearly all cases, the features and capabilities of the existing type are not quite right for the new use. This is the first problem. And the second problem with programming with abstract data types is the type definitions are all independent and at the same level. To overcome these two problems, we were bringing a new idea. The idea is what? Inheritance. So basically, inheritance will overrule the problems, major problems what we were faced through ADTs, that problems will get rectified or will get overruled with the help of next two features of object oriented. So now let's understand about inheritance. So basically inheritance is what? So in general inheritance is what? We'll acquire the properties. So if, let's understand, there are two classes, class A and class B. Now if class A is defined one variable, let's say that int max length is the variable, and let's say it is a class A, let's say it is class B. So according to the variable scope and the rules of it, I should not use max length of variable in the scope of class B, correct? The reason is what? Maximum length scope will get ended by the block when we close it. So that means scope of A is only this area I can use. Other than this, I have to again redefine it, reuse it, recompile it, re-execute it. So the variable which is already existed in the program, again we were going back to create it. So to overcome this problem, we were having an inheritance feature. Inheritance feature, what it will do is, we'll acquire this property from this class to this class. When we were doing so, we should ensure that the class B is extended from class A. Now, so with this idea, we just look into this. Inheritance offers a solution to both the modification problem posed by abstract data type, reuse, and the program organization problem. If a new abstract data type can inherit the data and functionality of some existing type and is also allowed to modify some of those entities and add new entities, reuse is great facilitated without requiring changes to the reused abstract data type. So that's the point what we were just covered. We were reusing it. So how we were reusing it? We were saying that class B is extended with class A. Now, so when we say this thing that class B is extended with class A is called as superclass, class B is called as subclass. Class A is called as parent class, class B is called as subclass or derived class. Now, when I say class B is derived from class A, whatsoever features were there with class A, that all the features will carried out to class B. So this is what inheritance concept. Now, so here some definitions were there in the slide. You can just go through it, that a class that is defined through inheritance from another class is derived class or subclass or something, which will help you out to write the exam. Now, so let's see about how to define inheritance concept in the language, that we'll see language by language. Now let's understand about dynamic binding. So dynamic binding is what? Here we do have the new method is said to be override. To overcome the feature of override, we will be going for dynamic binding. Let's see, understand about dynamic binding. So I wanted to define a class here, class A and class B. So as per the discussion previous, we were defined class A, class B. Class B is extension of class A. Now parent class is what? Class A, and child class is or subclass is what? Class B. Now class A is consisting of a member function which is draw, class B also having a member function which is draw. Now let's see that I have created a object which is A, my A is equal to new A, my A dot draw. Now, so the third characteristic of object oriented programming language is a kind of polymorphism, appearing data in many forms, provided by the dynamic binding of messages to method definitions. This is sometimes called dynamic dispatch. So whose draw function will get respond here? Were the class which object we were created the object for A class, naturally A data member function will get respond to execute here. So this kind of declarations we used to say with the name of dynamic binding. And now we'll see about language by language. So basically Smalltalk is the first programming language after the Simila 67 implemented executed version of object oriented features. So there are some features of Smalltalk. These features are what? So it is what? Purest model of object oriented computation. Classes cannot be nested in Smalltalk. All computations is through messages. So this is very important. Smalltalk will take everything is messages, message passing. So here we have given an example, x plus 7. We say X is the variable, or X is the identifier through which will perform the operation. Plus is the message, 7 is the message. Plus is a message to operate the arithmetic operation. 7 is a message to put the value which will get added, or the parameter to the message of plus. So this is what everything will take as a method, a message. Only the alphabets will be taken as an variables. Fine. Let's say that x plus y if I write. Now even to have y value, we have to pass a message. So we say everything is a message. All Smalltalk objects are allocated from the heap and are referenced through reference variables, which are implicitly dereferenced. So we'll use only the heap memory to allocate the objects. So basically Smalltalk uses constructors, and the constructors will be explicitly declared to initialize the values to the data members which were created in the classes. And a class can have multiple constructors, but each must have a unique name. So these are what basic features of Smalltalk language. Now inheritance is provided in Smalltalk. So a Smalltalk subclass inherits all of the instance variables, instance method and class methods, so of its superclass. The subclass can also have its own instance variables, which must have names that are distinct from the variable names in the ancestor classes. So finally, the subclass can define new methods and redefine methods that already exist in an ancestor class. We say Smalltalk supports single inheritance. And the dynamic binding is what? A message to an object causes a search of the class to which the object belongs for a corresponding method. So basically Smalltalk variables are not typed one. Any name can be bound to any object. Smalltalk doesn't under any circumstances bind messages to methods statically. So that's what we said, it is not typed one. So these are the features how Smalltalk supports feature of inheritance and dynamic binding. Now let's understand about C++. C++ is what? It is evolved from C and Simula 67. With the design goal of support for object-oriented programming. Basically, C++ supports through classes, and as they are used to support abstract data types. So here the data members which are being initialized in the class of C++ will be get instantiated through static, stack dynamic, heap dynamic. So here we'll use explicit deallocation using the delete operator required for heap dynamic objects, because C++ doesn't include implicit garbage collection or implicit storage reclamation. So we'll use constructor, destructor to allocate memory and to deallocate the memory. Now let's understand about the next programming language. So this is what how C++ will provide constructors and inheritance concept. So this is the syntactical structure to define subclass and the parent class. Now dynamic bind also it will be done, but functions we have defined thus far are statically bound. That is, a call to one of them is statically bound to a function definition. So dynamic binding as also happens, but C++ doesn't allow value variables to be polymorphic. So but this is the difference in between Java and C++. C++ doesn't allow value variables to be polymorphic, whereas Java will provide dynamic binding through polymorphism. Fine. So this is about C++. Now let's see about the Objective-C language. So their Objective-C, like C# has both primitive types and objects. Recall that a class definition consists of two parts, interface and implementation part, and we'll be having implementation part, interface part in the program itself, right? Now inheritance in C++, in C# and in Objective-C, we'll use NSO object to follow or to provide inheritance concept. So this is the way how we will be taking inheritance. Dynamic binding, a polymorphic variable is created by declaring it to be of type of ID. Such a variable can reference any object. So dynamic binding of Objective-C will be provided through polymorphism. So now look at the Java. Java supports all kind of inheritance levels. So single inheritance it being supports, and multiple inheritance, multi-level inheritance, it supports these kind of inheritances. The features of one class can be acquired by the other class. So when you define with a friend class, so you can take the parameters from one to the other. So Java uses dynamic binding through polymorphism. So inheritance, as I specified, it supports inheritance. And C#. C# support the same features like Java. C# includes both classes and structures, with the classes being very similar to Java classes. And it is a stack, it takes data members into the classes through stack dynamic. And inheritance dynamic binding, it supports. C# supports for interfaces is same as that of Java. So it supports single inheritance, multi-level inheritance are being supported in C# also. So now let's come to the ADA. ADA is a special language which support all these things using tagged classes. We were seen in the program of earlier that will take tagged type of classes. So this is what about ADA. ADA, C++, Java or similarity. You find more similarity in between of these languages. C++, C#, you have more similarities. So this is about object oriented programming features. Thank you all.